So let me ask you something. As a dentist, we often do all our basic treatments like we remove caries, we do restorations, we do scalings. But imagine a patient comes back after 6 months or later with the same problem again. What would you feel, or what would your outlook be to what actually failed in this? Let's say it wasn't your treatment, and we can confirm this. We can take an X-ray, we can see if the restoration is fine. So what else could it be? It could be the person's behavior. And in our previous topics, we have learned what this behavior is and what is the psychology behind it, we've learned. But now let's try and see what influences this behavior. That's our topic today. That is health education. Why? Because dentistry is not just about treating diseases. It's about the bigger picture. It's about changing a person's behavior. It's about changing their lifestyle. So let's look into that step by step today. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Asha Priyanka, your public health dentist, and my job is really simple here. I just want you to love public health the way I love it. I want you to understand it as a topic, and as I like to say it, as the bigger picture of what we do day to day. I want you to not only think about the patient that walks into your clinic, but also the community as a whole. Let's get to the topic today. So what is this health education? It's one of the most core concepts in public health. Why? Again, because treating diseases is only one part of healthcare, preventing them and helping people to adopt healthy lifestyles, to adopt healthy behaviors is equally important if we want to maintain, what we have done. So to put it simply, health education is helping people how to learn to improve their health. How? Through knowledge, through giving them motivation, and through changing their behavior. Think of it like this. If we do scaling for a patient's teeth once, it can treat their disease at that point. But if the patient learns proper oral hygiene habits, it can benefit them to last their life. So that is the power of health education that we have in our hands. If we look at the classic definition, WHO defines health education as any combination of learning experiences designed to help individuals and communities improve their health by increasing their knowledge or influencing their attitudes. Let's pick out some important words here. I'll be honest, as an examiner, I think one would not look for, at least in a theory paper, they don't look for every word to be correct. So don't mug it up. Try to understand what the concept is. I know a definition essentially needs to be told in the way it is. Try and look for the important words and in the order they are put in, so that the meaning is not deferred. The important words here in this definition today would be, can you see? Improve their health. How? By increasing their knowledge or influencing their attitude. These three words, if put together, would mean the same as the exact definition. So try and decode your definitions in that way, because mugging up really won't help you in the long run. Let's also see what health promotion means. Health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase control over or to improve their health. Now, I want you to understand the difference between health education and health promotion. A lot of my students are confused between this. Health education is like telling your people or telling a certain group of people what to do or how to do things. But health promotion is further back. It's the bigger of the bigger pictures here. It works on the policies, it works on the environment and the legislations, so as to help Today we'll be talking about health education primarily, and in the next topic I'll tell you about health promotion. Now let's see the objectives of health education. So we understand now that health education isn't just about giving some information. It clearly has objectives. So what are they? Firstly, we want to increase a person's knowledge. Like, people must understand what their health problems are. Then we want to help people develop positive attitudes. For example, they need to understand why even oral hygiene matters for them. Third, we want to promote healthy behavior. So like brushing and reducing sugar intake, all these things we want to help people promote it. Then we want to encourage community participation. So because health improves much faster when the whole community is involved. So health education turns from knowledge to attitude and then to behavior change. We also want them to develop all the skills they need for self-care. They want to be able to take care of themselves at home. They don't want to come to a dentist every day. And it's not possible. So we also want them to use these health services that we provide. So we need to let them know what all is wrong with them. We need to let them know how they can take care of it themselves to a level. And when they need intervention, they need to come to us. This process, this natural process of a patient understanding themselves and then coming up to up to a doctor for treatment is somewhere lost in communication. So that's what we're trying to build here. And what does this have to do with dentistry? We talk about oral hygiene practices. We talk about tobacco cessation. We talk about proper sugar usage or reduction in sugar. And we also talk about regular dental checkups. All this has got to do with health education itself. These were the objectives of a health education. Now let's come to the principles. So we understand why we are doing this, or why should we need to do this. But now we need to understand what are the principles of health education. Firstly, people's interest is very important. We need to relate the topics that we're talking about to people's interests. And that will ensure their participation. So people need to involve inactively. They need to involve actively. As an individual, they need to come and involve in this. And then comprehension. So we want our health education to be so simple to understand that comprehension or understanding of this what we're trying to tell is not even a question. Like, we say something, that it should immediately get absorbed by the person. And then we want to obviously reinforce. So because repetition only will get the key message across. So we want to repeat it and we want to reinforce it. And then we want to motivate them, because all telling is not going to do much if we don't motivate them to change their behavior. Then we also want good human relations. So everybody should have empathy. Everybody should have trust in each other, in their skill, in a dentist, in their doctor. So that is something we are seeing a lot in the news these days. That's something missing in our society. So we need to build more of that trust across. And finally, the final and most important principle, and I'll say it's a neat favorite also, is feedback. We need to check the understanding. Now, if we go on and on and on about how to do things, what to do, and how to do, and we don't find out if it's actually helping, take feedback and find out if it's actually helping, then we can't improve. So feedback is very, very much important. Whatever we do in public health, feedback is very important. So now let's come to some models of health education and promotion. Conceptually, this is very important. So we understand that people have different behaviors and they react to different types of encouragement. So health education also uses different kinds of approaches or models. That's what this is. Let's go one by one. The first is a health belief model. For the health belief model, the behavior of a person, they say, depends on certain things. Like, first, perceived susceptibility, which just means if a person even thinks that they are capable of getting this disease. Then perceived severity. So a person needs to believe that it is going to be severe, or it is going to be a problem for them if they get the disease. And then perceived benefits. They need to see a benefit in following your advice as the health education that you are trying to give. So if they find any benefit, which is usually that their whatever that severity, whatever of the susceptible disease that they had, if they feel like the benefit of listening to you is that disease being gone, then only they would look up to it. And perceived barriers. A person also needs to believe that it is easy to do. There are not much barriers. That is when they will believe in our health education. That's the health belief model. The application in this is motivating patients for preventive dental care. So, what is it? Now let's come to the theory of planned behavior. So, this model says that behavior is driven by things like a person's attitude, a person's subjective norms, and their perceived behavior control. Which means that if a person believes that there is a problem, their attitude towards that disease, that they have that problem, or they're not following certain advice, or they're not doing things properly, then only they'll come to the realization that whatever this health education that I'm receiving is beneficial to me. Also, subjective norms. This depends on a lot of things like cultural beliefs. A lot of people don't even think that getting cavities is a problem. It's all subjective. It all depends on what they've grown up with, listening. And perceived behavioral control. It also it depends on how a person thinks that their behavior can be controlled in the first place. So if they even feel like listening to this advice is going to control their behavior, is it going to be of any help? Ultimately, that's the question. Then the next model is a trans-theoretical model, and we've seen this in the previous video. The stages of behavior change are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. We also know that in between there can be a chance of reforming. They can go back. The best example for this is our tobacco cessation. So when you face a person in a clinic, and there's always a point of awkwardness when you open, when you try and you see in their mouth, they show a lot of signs of tobacco, but they don't accept it. So there's a way to approach them. There is, a public health dentist would know how and when to ask a person, and also when to say no, like when to not advise the person again with anything. You don't want to bombard a person's personal decision, but if you have any idea or any inkling to the fact that this person is regretting it, they just don't know how to change. It's not easy to break a habit that they've been doing for so many years. So what our tobacco cessation counseling is, it provides information and a lot of motivation. So people willingly, they want to adopt into the healthy behaviors. And the stages in this is this. So pre-contemplation would be the stage where they are still thinking about it. They're not sure that if it's even a problem or not, if it's a habit that they need to break. Then contemplation. They're sure that it's a problem. They're thinking about what to do. Then preparation. So they either come to counseling, or they take, say, like tobacco chewing, gum, etc., whatever's in the market. They try and use that. Or they try and prepare themselves for this. Then comes our action. They actually go and do it. And if we were good enough, we were lucky enough to find a person, give them counseling in the proper way, and they start to follow, it would fall under this action phase. And then if they want to obviously maintain that. So these are the stages of the trans theoretical model. Now comes the social learning model by Bandura. This means that the learning occurs through observation. So this is more inept to little children when we try and give them a healthy habit of brushing or oral hygiene from the beginning, start them young. So role models are crucial in health education. Our application for this model would be simply our dental health education programs with peer educators. So they plan models for health programs, right? You can also, more simply, you can also think about our parents at home. They model, when you stand with a child and you model brushing techniques and you tell them this is how you'd brush, and you brush twice a day, the child will also brush twice a day. So this is also very important to be a good role model. Now comes something called the PRECEDE-PROCEED Model. So in this, the phases are first social assessment, and then epidemiological assessment, and educational diagnosis, administrative tools, and implementation and evaluation. This is more towards the health promotion part. We will discuss this in length in the next video. For now, let's go to the next concept. Now that we've understood the concept and objectives of health education, let's take a small pause here. In the next part, we'll move into some of the approaches and communication processes and methods that we use in health education, which is where the real practicality of everything really begins.